Hello, welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm going to continue my freezer bag meal video. In this case, I'm going to actually make the meal that I prepped last time. The last episode I left off taking my freezer bag, filling it with my food, which was basically my pastaroni and the flavor packet that comes with it, and I placed it into my little cozy from Hyperlite Mountain Gear that I use. You can make your own. You can go buy like a sun visor in like a dollar store or something, cut one and make it out of duct tape. Definitely much cheaper than this thing. This thing was about $45 delivered, a little overpriced. It does weigh almost nothing though. It's really light. So, but here's my meal in the freezer bag, and I'm gonna now take water, add it to this, let it sit. I'm gonna choose to wait about the 20 minutes just because I want to make sure none of the bits are crunchy inside. And that's it. I'm going to doctor it up a little bit. I'm going to show you what I would normally do to doctor it up. And then we'll go from there. So, hope you'll join me. Okay, hello, I'm back again. And I'm putting this on the floor because I'm going to be boiling water. And it's better to have it on the ground because it's less likely to spill or tip over. And if it does, it's already on the ground, so it won't splash all over the place. So just to recap, what I've done is I've made a freezer bag meal. I've used a freezer bag. It's a quart size Ziploc freezer bag. That's what I'm generally looking for because those are the best size for what we're doing, and it fits inside my cozy that I have. I'm going to put that on the side for now, and I'll get back to that. So all I did was take the packaging, which was, this is a pastaroni, it's butter and garlic, and I placed it inside the freezer bag. And you can see the size difference if I'm packing in my food bag what this would be. So if you haven't watched that video, I'll put a link into it, but you should go back and watch that first, but not necessary if you don't want to. And I'm going to doctor this up. And generally I'm just adding it so it adds a little bit of more additional taste, a little bit of calories, depending on what I'm adding, and obviously visual appeal as well. So I have a large number 10 can that I purchased of peas. They're dehydrated peas, and I'm going to add some of those to the mix. So this is what they look like. They're dehydrated peas, or freeze-dried, I should say, right? Yeah, they're freeze-dried peas. So all I'm going to do is take some, and I'm just going to add a handful. These weigh almost nothing, but they'll add a little bit of fiber, a little bit of green to it, and some color, and some extra taste. And peas and pasta, to me, go very well together. So all I did was add in a serving size is, I think, a quarter of a cup, but I would add less than that, probably an eighth. But just a little bit, just for a little color and a little texture, and some flavor as well. It'll add a nice change to it. And normally in the field, I would want to add a protein to this. So I would use one of these packages. This is a package of chicken. It's applewood smoked flavor. It's 70 calories for this package. It's one serving, basically. It's about 2.6 ounces. So I was going to round up and say 3 ounces. And it adds about 12 grams of protein. So very good if you've been, exercising, walking all day, you want some protein. Very, very important to try to add. And obviously the meat does that. So I have my pasta, my carbs, my calories, and I'll add a little bit of greens with the peas. And now I'm going to add a little chicken. I'm probably not going to open this because I don't want to waste it. I know what the chicken tastes like. This is already cooked, so there's no need. You can eat it right out of the bag if you want to, but I would generally add it to this, and if I was really going to make this, I would either add this at the end, or I would just add it in the middle because I'm not cooking it, I'm just warming it back up. So that's an option. Another thing I might add, and I probably will add, is ghee. Ghee is clarified butter. So this is butter that is heated, and the solids are removed. So those are the milk solids, really, mostly. So that, therefore, it is more shelf stable. It will keep longer. It will not spoil as much. It does not need to be refrigerated. Regular butter doesn't need to be refrigerated as well, but it will get runny, and it's in a plastic container, so I can take it in my pack. I don't have to worry about it. If you've never had clarified butter, it does not have the exact same taste as butter. It is a fat. It will add calories. This is 130 calories per serving. A serving is a tablespoon. Okay, there's about 13 tablespoons in here. So, 26. I'm sorry. There's about 26 servings in here. If you're a little heavy-fisted and you go a little over, you'll get obviously a lot less than that. But this is a good way to add flavor and calories to your meals while hiking. This is a very dense product and sort of calorically dense product. So for the amount of weight you're carrying, you're getting a lot of calories out of it. So it's a good thing to add. It will get runny or soft in warm weather. It's warm out here now, and it's starting to run. It's actually free-flowing. Can't see it, but it looks like butter. Looks like melted butter. It's soft. And it does have a more oily taste than butter. But it still has a little butter taste as well. But it doesn't taste exactly like butter. So if you haven't tried this before, just be aware that it will not taste exactly like butter because it is different. But it does have that butter-like taste, and it also, to me, has like an oily taste as well. So, but it will add calories and flavor, a sense of buttery flavor to this, and give it a little more creamy texture. So that's something I am going to do. And I am going to add that to this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, because I'm getting ready to do this, so I want to prep everything. This is something I would do in the field. You could add at the end, the butter is going to melt. All I'm doing is adding it. It's kind of a gloppy mess. So, and since I'm the only one eating this, it's no big deal if like I would in the field, I would clean my spoon off. I would probably just eat this. There are people that will just eat this outright, kind of like a peanut butter almost. That's a little bit much for me, but you can easily do this, and it does have a, like I said, it has a buttery taste, but more oily. And there are different brands. It's, you know, it has, to me, a mostly oily taste. So, yeah. I don't think I could eat that by itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to boil my water to come to a near boil, I should say. You're going to heat the water up till a near boil. You're looking for anywhere between 160 and 180 degrees. You don't want to go to 212 because you can melt this plastic. So if I go back to my pastaroni box, this calls for a tablespoon of butter, which we've kind of added with the ghee. It asks for 1 3/4 cup water and 1/3 cup milk, and that's to make it a more creamy mix with the butter and garlic sauce. Obviously, out in the field, I'm not going to have milk with me. I'm not going to carry butter, but I am going to carry the ghee. So the ghee is covered, the butter. Water, I have plenty of. So I would not use 1 3/4 cup of water because I'm going to be steaming this kind of in the bag, so it's not going to evaporate as much. It would come out very runny if you do it. So I'm going to try adding 1.5 cups of water to start, and I'm going to just eyeball that. And I'm not going to use the cup of milk, the 1/3 cup of milk. If I decided to take powdered milk with me, I would add a little bit more water because I need the milk to reconstitute. And I'm sure there's a thickening agent probably in the powder. Under heat, it would thicken up. But because we're not going to be boiling it, it probably won't thicken up as much. So I just have a bottled water. This is 16.9 ounces. I'm going to go to 1.5 cups. So I'm not going to use all 2 cups that are in here. So I'll take a little drink, which I kind of need after drinking that ghee. And I decided to use my Jetboil for this. And there is a line in the Jetboil for 2 cups. So I'm just not going to go that high. And I'm going to kind of eyeball this. Now, obviously, if I was making this to share with someone, I wouldn't have drank out of this. And I wouldn't have used my spoon. And I can go under because I can always add more water later to soften up that product. So what I'm going to do now is I pretty much put in probably 1.5 cups or close to it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to light my Jetboil and start heating up my water. So I turn it up till I hear the gas going. And there we go. I think we have ignition. Yep, we do have ignition. And I'm going to now heat this and let this go to a near boil. And I'm going to let the Jetboil do what the Jetboil does best. Boil water. So I'm just waiting. It's been about 30, 40 seconds. I'm going to let the Jetboil continue doing what it was. I've got Mr. Potato Head supervising all the cooking, and he's a pretty harsh critic. He's had a really bad day. A couple of pieces of him have fallen off during production so far, so he's not in a good mood. I'm just starting to get a little bit of steam, and I've got a little bit of bubbling happen in my pot here. I'm going to see if I can catch this. I don't know if it's showing with the light, but you can see the steam, obviously. And I just have a little bit of boiling coming on. Okay, so I have boiling taking place now. Camera's fogging up there. So I'm going to close this because obviously I went a little bit too far and the water boiled. What I should have done was use the meter on the side. When you see these orange stripes, that means it's hot. The water's warm or boiled. So I was preoccupied with moving the camera and doing other stuff. So I'm going to let this cool down a little bit because I actually do not want to melt my plastic. So that's another thing you can do. If you overheat the water, just let it cool a little bit. Especially during the winter, it'll cool pretty fast sitting out here. So I'm going to let this cool for a second, and then I'm going to add it to my freezer meal bag. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back here. I've let my water sit for a little bit. I got my freezer bag meal, and I am going to now pour this in here. I've let it sit for a little bit to cool off because I went a little bit hot on the water. And this is very simply done. And I'm just going to bring this over. I'm going to bring this table over so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the hot water to my freezer bag meal. If the water is too hot, I will melt this bag. So I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to pour a little bit in. And I want to mix stuff up. And right away the bag is getting hot. So it is hard to hold. And I'm trying to just mix up the powder. And the heat is going to do the rest of the job. This pasta is very narrow and it's probably pre-cooked a little bit, so I don't have to worry about it needing to cook. I like to take all the air out as much as possible because it makes sure that the product itself is getting hydrated and not the air in there. And I basically want to be careful with the corners of the bag. That's where the powder likes to stick and the water gets on top of it and it doesn't penetrate it. So I like to usually make sure I'm getting the corners. I'm going to place it inside my cozy. There's two reasons for this. One, the cozy will protect it and give it some strength and rigidity. It will protect my hands from getting burned and trying to hold this hot bag. And you can see it's now inside this, and it also keeps that heat in, lets the heat work longer. So I can mix it up, I can shake it. As long as it's sealed, it won't leak. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the time, and I'm going to give it 20 minutes. And no, I'm not going to sit here and let the camera run for 20 minutes. So we will fast forward to about 10 minutes from now, usually at about the 10-minute mark, or I might go do something, maybe go get water, set up my tent. When that's happening, I would generally come back, mix this up again, see how it's doing. So I would open it up, mix it up, put it back in and let it sit. Inside the cozy, if I want, I can just shake it up. But the problem is, without looking at the product, I don't know how it's doing really. I can feel it, but I can't really be that good on how well it's reconstituting. So I'm just going to leave this sit. I'm going to leave Mr. Potato Head to watch it, and I'll come back in about 10 minutes and check on it. In the meantime, I'm going to start cleaning up and putting away stuff like I don't need, like my stove. Now that I'm done, Now that I'm done with my stove, I can actually pack it away, disconnect the container, put it away, and start doing some chores, camp chores, while my food is being made. So it's been about 10 minutes. Mr. Potato Head has reminded me to come check on it. So I'm going to open up the package. I'm going to pull it out. And you can see it's reconstituted. You can definitely see some of the oil from the ghee laying on the top in a little layer. I'm assuming that's from the ghee. Most of the, it's really, really hot. I still cannot really touch it and hold it. There's no leaking though, so my water was not so hot as to melt the plastic. So the plastic has stood up to the heat that we've offered it. Most of the noodles already feel soft, but I can tell there's no dry bits in the corners, which is usually where I'm checking, like I mentioned before. That's where it seems the powder likes to lie around and get in the fold of the corner there and doesn't reconstitute very well. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to let this sit anyway for another several more minutes. It's still very watery to me, unfortunately. I don't mind that, but I don't think it'll really thicken up. But as the pasta absorbs some of the water, knowing what I know now, if I was probably going to make this again, I would probably go to 1 cup water and see how it produces, a sauce or whatever. If I like it thick, if you want a really dry or thick pasta. This is probably a little bit soupy right now. It may absorb a little bit more water, but I'm really not expecting it to. If I was doctoring this up with a little more stuff, I would probably, if you added a little bit of rice to this or something, it would thicken up a little bit more, and the rice would absorb some of that water, and it wouldn't go. But I generally would not add rice. So, I already have carbs. Sometimes you could add like a little scoop of, or a little touch of rice to it, just to thicken up and add more calories, because you're really not talking about a lot of calories if you just go by the mix. So I'd probably say you're getting close to 700, 600 something calories in here, probably altogether. And then with the ghee and if I was to make the meal complete, I know I quoted the numbers last week, but you're probably looking, maybe, I don't even know if it's 1,000 calories for the whole meal, probably not. You're probably well under. The peas don't offer that much. The butter, or the ghee, is very calorie dense, so it's 130 calories. So you're probably looking at the neighborhood of like 800-900 calories for a whole meal. I'd go 1,000 on the top end with the chicken, and maybe if you added some other stuff. But it's really not a lot of calories for someone that's hiking all day long. You would definitely need more food, and that's why obviously you'd probably have a snack, and of course you're eating throughout the day. So that's it. So I'm going to let this sit for another, since I've been talking, probably about another 6-7 minutes, and then we're going to give it a try. Okay? I'll be back. Mr. Potato Head's going to watch the pasta while it continues to cook. We're back. Mr. Potato Head is very hungry and cannot wait to try some. Except he won't eat on camera, he says. While I'm just waiting, it's very warm out here right now. It's probably in the 70s. So the cozy really isn't necessary, but like I said, it does make it easier to handle. It gives it some rigidity. I can actually eat out of this by folding the strap back, and I don't have to worry if I make a mistake and it's gonna, burn my fingers or spill all over the place probably. One thing I do regret, and a lesson learned, so to say, is it's easier to eat with a spoon than it is with very commonly, like I have a spork. The spork has kind of sharp edges on the end of it. So if you're using a freezer bag and you go to eat with a spork, there's a good possibility that you might possibly, so notice I said it twice, the possibility that you'll puncture your bag and then spill all your food. So in hindsight, if I was to repurchase a utensil or bring something, if I'm going to use this method, I might not bring a fork at all and just use a spoon, because there's less likelihood that putting the spoon in the bag will result in a puncture or a leak. And that's something you do want to be careful, especially now that it's in this bag. I guess I can rinse this out, but I don't want to make a mess in here. Even though it's contained, I don't want to make a mess in here. So I'm going to pull it out just so you can see. So here's all the food. It's kind of separated. Obviously, it stays in layers. And if I was going to make this with my chicken, I would add the chicken in here, and you can stir it up. Doesn't look as appetizing as it could be, but after a long day of hiking, a hot meal, to me, nothing better. So, it's kind of like Dutch oven cooking. If anyone's ever gone camping, doesn't food always taste better cooked in a Dutch oven or over the fire? And I don't know what it is. It could be the same thing I make at home, but it tastes better when it's out there in the woods. And it especially tastes better when you're cooking in a Dutch oven. So it's kind of like the same thing. Usually if I'm making something that I like, generally, I am, like I said, I am a picky eater. So this allows me to control a lot of the food and the taste I have. Now, this ghee I've never tried before, this brand. This is great value. I don't know if it tastes different than other brands. I know I just tasted it now, and it has a very oily taste to me. Not quite as buttery, flavor. So that's something to be aware of. So if you don't like that flavor, or you try it and you don't like it, don't use it. Skip it. You can bring little butter packages. There's ways to bring butter out there, especially during the winter. During the summer, obviously refrigeration is an issue with certain things. But butter can survive out. In the old days, they didn't have refrigeration. And if you can get little butter packets, maybe from like a restaurant, they're kind of self-contained and still. I wouldn't have a problem taking one of them and adding it to a meal as long as it's sealed still. The only problem is I think there's a good chance that in your pack it could rupture or leak, and now you're gonna have oil all over your stuff. So that's why I don't like that, and I'll do without it. And you can always find a butter substitute. They do make, like butter flakes, or I can't believe it's not butter, that would give you a butter flavor without having to physically carry butter. And that is a shelf-stable product that you can use to add butter flavor. You're not going to get the fat, though, the calories, which is the benefit of using the ghee. So, okay, so I'm going to try this now. see how it tastes. If need be, like I said, this can always be doctored up. It's still a little bit soupy. I just want you to show. You can see there's a layer, but it's not as watery as it once was. And there is a little bit of a sauce there. It's just a little watery, if you ask me. It's not quite as thick as if it was cooked on the stove, or maybe if I used a little less water. So I'm going to give this a try. It's still pretty hot, but smelling it, I smell a butter flavor. I smell a little bit of garlic. So it smells like butter, garlic, and oil to me. The noodles are quite thin, so they were obviously very easy to reconstitute, and I could see the peas in there. You know what, let me see if I can bring it a little closer and see if we can get a better shot of the food. There we go. It's hard when I'm recording out here because this, the angle has to be good for the lens. But you can see the food is clearly, it's soft right now. There's no problem. You can see the different parts of it. The noodles are reconstituted quite well. And, it just needs a little mixing to get that oil redistributed and emulsified, I guess, right? Or whatever it is, back through the whole meal. So I'm going to put it back in here because this is still extremely hot, even though it's been sitting for 20 minutes. The Cozy does a nice job in just that much water, and it is a warm day, as I said. It's not like I'm out in 30-degree temperature. It would cool a lot faster. It would still be warm, though. So I'm now going to try it. Everything's cooked through in terms of rehydration. There's no crunchy bits at all. The noodles have clearly rehydrated and are actually quite soft. I get a little bit of a garlic flavor, a little bit of a butter. It still has that oily taste, probably from the ghee. And the sauce is a little runny, but not too much. It's probably more liquidy than it would be if it was cooked over the stove. I'm imagining if I cooked it over the stove, the heat would probably thicken this product up. I'm sure there's some sort of like cornstarch or something in it that would make it thicken up a little bit. It does still have a a little bit of a, I want to say like a doughy taste. So probably because the noodles have not been cooked, so they're a little bit more dense than if you had cooked them and boiled them several minutes. But it's not bad at all. I would eat this if I was on the trail, no problem. And I will try making this meal probably on the trail again if I was actually camping. The peas should be hydrated. I'm just going to try and get one and try them. The pea is quite good. It's all hydrated through and it has a nice flavor on it if it's eaten by itself. I didn't taste it so much with the garlic. I think it's overpowered by the butter and the garlic. I would almost wonder if I made this without the ghee, if it would be more balanced. So, but it does call for butter, so I don't think that's a big deal. So I would say this is a success. This is a meal I would probably eat out on the trail, and I would make this again. I would continue to doctor it. The chicken would be a nice addition. Obviously, I'd get those bits in there. I would have more flavor. It's applewood smoked, so it would have a smoky flavor. And it would also obviously up the content and fill me up a lot with the additional calories. So that's going to be it for this episode. So that's basically what you do for a freezer meal. As you can see, it's really, the work comes off trail or in the preparation, I should say. So if I was resupplying, I might have to do that in a parking lot or a hotel or a hostel, but I don't really have a lot of work to do at the campsite when I'm cooking. I basically just add the water. If I'm using the ghee, I have to add the ghee. But other than that, all the work really came before you went hiking. So if you're going for a long week or a weekend, you can prep some of these meals, several of them in advance. They're in the Ziploc bags. They pack down a lot thinner in your bag, a lot smaller than their packaging when you buy them in the store. And therefore, there's less bulk and less waste to carry with you. And the good thing about this is if and when I'm done, all I have is this bag. So all I have to do is basically zip up the bag and I have my garbage in there. I can compress it, take all the air out of it as much as possible, and Ziploc it. If I end up not eating all this meal, depending on the temperature outside, whether I can keep it or not, but the food is already in there, I don't have to throw it away or contain it somewhere. if I decided that after half a meal I can't eat anymore, I can just zip it up and it's in my garbage bag already. It's already contained. I would probably put that in another bag just in case it broke or leaked, but my garbage is self-contained. I don't have to worry about any. There's no pot to clean. There's nothing. The only thing I have is my spoon, and I can lick that clean. If I really want to, I can wipe it off or clean it with a towel and pack it away. So that's going to be it for freezer meals. What I may do now is, and in looking at one of my comments that I received talking about different meals, I plan on going to a store, and I'll probably walk through the store and just discuss some of the options for freezer bag meals. I've covered some of them, but I'd like to go to like a Walmart and probably walk around and videotape myself maybe doing like a resupply shopping, so to say, of things that I would look for and where I would go to find them, and just show different examples, because obviously it's very limited here and I really don't want to take up a lot of time and let this episode run long like I usually do. So that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like what I'm doing, please leave a comment, give a thumbs up, subscribe if you feel so inclined, and come back for more. But we'll do some freezer meals next time. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna try to go to the store, do some shopping, show you some of the different options that are available. Obviously, options may vary in your area, but most of these things are very easy to find, either going to a large chain, and some of them are even available at a dollar store, or you'll find a variation, maybe not a name brand, but another brand that you could do the same type of cooking. It's just a matter of you thinking outside the box and realizing that, you know what, you can mix a lot of things together to make a meal. And even if it's a weird combination, and some people eat some weird stuff to me, but if they like it or you like it, who cares? Because you're the one eating it. And the biggest thing is, don't change your diet that much when you go on the trail to me. You're not going to change that much. Your tastes are your tastes for a reason. I don't think that you go out on the trail and all of a sudden you have a totally different diet. You may start liking other foods or craving other foods because of the activity you're doing, but generally you're going to tend to eat the same things. So don't go out and purchase some weird stuff that you never had, because all of a sudden, now you want to try and be healthy and you're going to try and, buy brand, and you never eat that when you're at home. Unless you like that, you're probably not going to enjoy that or eat that. A lot of people start eating oatmeal and stuff because it's easy and convenient. But if you don't eat that every day, you're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to enjoy that. And the food is very important. You need the calories. So it has to be something that you enjoy. So pasta is something I like eating anyway. Butter and oil and garlic, I would eat that anyway. I wouldn't eat that all the time, but it's not a bad substitute because I like pasta. So once again, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for joining me. Till we meet again.